This morning, I don't know if anybody reads the Wall Street Journal, but if you've been through one of my classes, you know I always read the Wall Street Journal, and particularly the CIO Journal. I recommend you read that. The transformative time for companies and CIOs, and you might add on there CISOs, because they're working together, right? And they need to make a change. When you think about a company like Amazon.com, I don't know what you think about, but I think technology company. You know, it used to be a book company, but it's a technology company, isn't it? And that's where the CIO needs to start thinking, and the CISO needs to be working in conjunction with. And in fact, the article, the Wall Street Journal article, went on to say that every central and major decision has to run by these offices in today's business world. So it's an important thing. But then this morning we heard that only 8% of the big companies out there actually have a strategy. And most of the people out there don't really understand that they don't have a strategy. They say that they do. Well, let's take a look here at what's happening. I want to give you some information. By the way, everybody should have a copy of the Vendor to Advisor book. And what I want to do is give you some information out of that. But if we look up at the top and we think about the people running a business, and the decisions being made, and they're going through these offices, the CISO, the CIO. How does technology enable? You've got these people, and they're kind of sitting there, and they're managing two sides of the world. They've got two things to think about. One side is the operational piece, the employees and all that kind of stuff, the infrastructure. And the other side is the business growth, the sales, the marketing. Even you'll see things happening over there that require those offices to grow those businesses. And this person's sitting in the middle. Now, the traditional CIO office, and of course the CISO office was maybe even reporting up to the CIO office in the maybe older days. But they weren't strategic. They were operational. But then they've got these issues that they're facing. And they're looking at the competition, and they're looking at rising costs and lack of talent and compliance regulations coming in, and their data, which is at risk. And we heard a lot about intellectual capital. Again, just a couple of weeks ago, the Wall Street Journal had a quote in there from some cyber specialists in the Department of Defense saying all American companies, major American companies, have been compromised at this point. It's an interesting article. It's on my blog, by the way, davidstelzl.com. You ought to go back and take a look at this article if you haven't seen it, because what it says is there's no single compelling event that would drive us to war. It's a slow sifting of our intellectual capital. This is bad news. These people need help. And these pressures are rising against these people as they're trying to manage these two sides of the business. And then they're trying to introduce these transformational technologies that we heard about this morning, the cloud technology, the mobility, the collaboration, social business, bring your own device. All these things have to come in to make this company relevant for the future. And there's all kinds of new security things developing as a result. And who's going to help them get through all this? Who's going to be their advisor? That's why I wrote the book, because I saw so many companies out there selling features and functions at the IT level. Harvard Business Review put an article out sometime mid-year that was entitled, "Solution Selling is Dead." And I wanted to read it. It was actually a fairly lengthy article that went in to talk about the importance of focusing the sales effort, not just on the technology people, but now getting involved with the business, just like that CISO and that CIO need to be in the future, to be relevant. And not even to stop there, but to go out and look at the people that I call asset owners, the people who are driving profitability through the organization. Because those are the people who are demanding things. I was working with a pretty good-sized technology company a couple weeks ago, and one of the salespeople said, but they're not really talking about big data. How many of your clients are talking about big data? All right, now I want you to look around. Hold your hand up. I want you to look around. Not that many. You know what that tells me? It tells me you're too focused on the IT organization, because IT is not talking about big data. Who's talking about big data? CEOs. CEOs are talking about big data. As I go around the country and speak at IO lunches and CSO luncheons, which I do quite frequently, I talk to them and I ask them, is your company talking about big data? Yeah, at the CEO level, at the sales department level, at the R&D level, somewhere in the organization where there's someone producing profitability and strategy for that company, they're talking about big data. Personnel. Talked to a guy the other day that heads up a big HR division for a big manufacturing company out of Germany. Yeah, they're talking about big data. But IT's not. Why? Because it's not there yet. But it's coming. And so there's advice that's needed. And the question is, if you're going to get to the billion-dollar level, how do you make the transition? How do you get there? And so that's what we want to talk about.